Welcome to today's lesson, which is about operations with rational numbers. The goal of today's lesson is that you can add, subtract, multiply and divide both positive and negative rational numbers. So here let's look at adding rational numbers, and the first thing to do when you're doing any of these problems is decide before you start, is your answer, in this case a sum, going to be positive or negative? And we can determine that a couple of different ways. So I'm going to use a number line in this example with 0, and I have positive 5/6, so I'm going in this direction, and then positive 3/4, I'm going to go in this direction again, and this is the positive side of the number line, so I know that my sum is going to be positive. Now to add these, they don't have common denominators, so I need to make a common denominator, which in this case will be 12ths, 10 12ths, and 9 12ths, 19 12ths, and that is 1 and 7 12ths. So my answer is going to be 1 and 7 12ths, which is a positive number. Let's look at the difference of two rational numbers. And again, before I start, I want to know, is my difference going to be positive or negative? So 2 and 5/6 is almost 3. If I rounded it, it would be 3. So I'm going to say 3 positives, and 3/4 is almost 1. So I'm going to round it to 1 and say I have 1 negative. And I can see that I have more positives than negatives, so my answer is going to be positive. I could also use a number line. Say here's 0, 1, 2, 3, and I have 2 and 5/6, which is almost 3, so that's about here, 2 and 5/6, and I subtract 3/4, which is less than 5/6, so that would bring it back down to about here, so a little bit over 2. But again, this is the positive side of the number line, so I expect my difference to be positive. Now to do the math, 2 and 5/6, I need to write an equivalent improper fraction. 2 6s, 12 and 5, 17/6 minus 3/4, which I need to make a common denominator now, so 34 12ths minus 9 12ths is 25 12ths, and that is equal to 2 and 1/12. It's equivalent to 2 and 1/12, and it's positive, which I can see on the number line, and I can also see here that I expected my difference to be positive. So here I want to multiply rational numbers, and again I want to decide before I start each problem, is my product going to be positive or negative? So in the first example here, I am multiplying a negative fraction by a positive fraction. 5/4 is positive. So negative times positive, the two signs are different, so my product is going to be negative. And I'll just do the math here. 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 4 is 8, and I can write in my negative sign. Now in the next example, I am multiplying negative 1/2 by negative 3 and 1/4. Both signs are the same, both are negative, so my product is going to be positive. I decide that before I start doing the calculations. And because it's multiplication, I do not need common denominators, but I do need the 3 and 1/4 to be an improper fraction. So I'm going to have negative 1/2 times negative 3 times 4 is 12 and 1 13/4, which will give me 13/8, which is 1 and 5/8, and it's positive. Similarly with dividing rational numbers, if I divide and the divisor and the dividend have two different signs, then my quotient is going to be negative. So in the first example here, we've got negative 1/3 divided by positive 5/6. So it's going to be negative. And I'll do the math. Negative 1/3 divided by 5/6 is equivalent to negative 1/3 multiplied by the reciprocal of 5/6, which is 6/4. And I can do some cross multiplying or dividing. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So it's negative 2/4 or negative 1/2 is equivalent to negative 2/4. Let's look at the second question we have here. And we have negative 5/6 divided by negative 1/24. Again, what sign am I expecting my quotient to be? I am dividing where both signs are the same, dividing a negative by a negative. So I'm expecting my quotient to be positive. So let's do the math. Negative 5/6 divided by negative 1/24 is negative 5/6 multiplied by the reciprocal of 1/24 is negative 24/1. So now let's do some cross cancelling. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Negative 24 divided by 6 is negative 4. Negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. So decide before you begin what you expect the sign to be. And you need common denominators when adding and subtracting. You do not need common denominators for multiplying and dividing. So you saw today how to add, subtract, multiply and divide positive and negative rational numbers. And you saw how to decide whether the signs should be of your answer should be positive or negative. And you saw to do that before you do the calculations. Sometimes I find myself that if I don't decide up front what the sign is going to be, I forget to check at the end. So it's good to determine up front what your sign is going to be and then do the math. And that's the end of today's lesson.